If you're thinking about buying a home in New Bern, North Carolina in 2026, there's something you really need to know, because the headlines you are seeing about the housing market are not telling you the full story. And that's especially true for everything that happened here in 2025. Because depending on what article you read or what expert you listen to, you are hearing one of two extremes. Either it's the housing market is about to crash, or everything is fine and prices are about to explode again. But the truth is, New Bern doesn't move like that. And I came prepared for this video because I went out and I scraped and pulled every single month of New Bern real estate data for all of 2025 directly from our MLS. So we're not guessing, we're not going off vibes, and we're not repeating some national headline that doesn't apply here. You see, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what happened in New Bern in 2025, what the biggest experts are predicting nationally for 2026, and most importantly, what I think 2026 looks like right here in New Bern if you are planning to buy. So let's go ahead and jump in. What's up, everybody? This is Ray Copeland with SellingNorthCarolina.com. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, and play right here in New Bern, then consider subscribing to the channel and don't forget to hit that bell icon. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new video. We get calls, texts, emails every week from people just like you thinking about moving to the New Bern area. So if that's you, don't hesitate to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Days, nights, weekend, we got you back when moving to New Bern. Now, if there's one overarching theme of this entire video, it's this. 2026 is shaping up to be the most balanced, predictable real estate market we have had in years. And I know that sounds boring, but for buyers, boring is actually good, because 2026 isn't 2021. It isn't the chaos where you had to tour 5 houses in a day and submit an offer that night. It isn't the affordability shock of 2022 where rates jumped and everyone's payment exploded. It's not the low inventory freeze we've dealt with the last few years where buyers basically had to fight over whatever scraps were available. This is a different environment, and if you understand how it works, 2026 could actually put you in one of the best buying positions we've seen since before the pandemic. So first, let's talk about what actually happened here in New Bern in 2025, because 2025 was the year the market finally cooled down from the chaos of 2021 through 2023, but it did not weaken. See, that's the key. It cooled, but it didn't collapse. Inventory rose, days on market increased, prices stabilized, and buyers regained some negotiation power. But demand stayed solid, prices held firm, and resale value remained surprisingly resilient. And once you see the 2025 numbers, it is going to make a lot more sense why I'm feeling good about 2026. So let's start with the biggest shift of all in 2025, inventory. Because when people say the market is changing, what they're usually feeling is inventory. And in New Bern, inventory absolutely surged in 2025. In January of this last year, we had 243 active listings. By July of 2025, we were up to 353 active listings. In September, 326. And by the end of the year, we were sitting at right around 382 active listings. That is a big jump. And to put that in perspective, 2023 inventory averaged around 200, 2024 averaged around 230 to 250, and 2025 pushed into that 295 to 360 range for most of the year and peaked close to 400. That is the biggest year-over-year inventory increase we've seen in a very long time. But here's what matters. It wasn't a flood. This wasn't dump the houses and let's panic sale. What happened is the market slowed down and listings piled up. Homes stopped selling instantly. Fewer buyers waived contingencies, and sellers who were priced too high had to sit longer. More stale listings accumulated, and even more expired listings started returning to the market. So inventory rose. But it wasn't because demand disappeared, it was because the pace normalized. And that brings us to the next stat that tells the real story: months of inventory. You see, months of inventory is basically the cleanest way to describe who has leverage in the market, because active listings by itself doesn't really tell the whole story. If you have 380 homes for sale, but buyers are still buying a lot of them, that's a different market than having 380 homes for sale with no demand. So here's what months of inventory looked like in 2025. It ranged from about 1.9 months at the low point all the way up to about 3.8 months at the high point. By November, we were around 3.8 months of inventory. By December, about 3.2. And what that tells us is that New Bern did something really important in 2025. It transitioned from a tight seller's market into a more balanced market, but still slightly leaning seller. So it's no longer extreme seller advantage like 2021, but it's also not a buyer's market. And if you're watching this thinking, so does that mean prices are dropping? No, because here's what happened next. Prices stayed stable. And this is the part that surprises a lot of people. You see, the median sold price in New Bern in January of last year was around $327,000. In March, we hit the high point at a little over $336,000. In June, almost $323,000. In September, almost $320,000. And in November, $315,000. And in December, $335,000. So yes, prices moved month to month, but the story of 2025 is not a market that fell apart. It is a market that stabilized. The average sold price in December was $340,107. The median sold price was $335,000. That is an extremely stable market. And the big takeaway is this: 2025 was the first year in a while where New Bern didn't have major price surges, but it also proved how resistant this market is to price declines. And that's exactly what you want to see as someone who's thinking about buying in 2026. Because in a stable market, you don't feel pressured to rush, but you also don't feel like you're buying into a falling knife either. Now let's talk about the stat that affects how buying a home feels day to day, and that's days on market, because this is the one that buyers actually experience. You see, in January of last year, the median cumulative days on market was 29 days. In July, it was 29 days again. September, 39 days. November, 43. And in December, 51. So homes took longer to sell in 2025. But let me say this really clearly. 30 to 50 days on market is normal. That's how a normal housing market works. You get to see a home, you get to think about it, you get to compare it to other homes, you can negotiate again, you don't have to panic. And if you never bought a home in a normal market, you might not realize. That's how it's supposed to feel. Now, did buyers gain negotiating power in 2025? Yes, but a little, not a lot. Because even with higher inventory, New Bern still didn't turn into a discount market. Most homes still sold very close to their list price. And we know that because the sell to list price ratios stayed very healthy. Now, if you're wondering, okay, Ray, so what does all of this mean for 2026? Now, here's where we zoom out, because 2026 is going to be shaped by national trends, even though real estate is always hyper-local. And when you look at the major 2026 forecast, and I'm talking NAR, Realtor.com, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and places like Zillow, the overwhelming consensus is this: 2026 is a soft landing year, not a boom, not a crash, a normalization year. Most projections have mortgage rates in the low to mid 6% range. Most projections have home prices rising slowly around 0 to 4% nationally. And most projections show home sales rebounding from very weak 2025 levels, but not going back to the pre-2020 levels. And that last part is important because the pre-pandemic average for existing home sales was around 5.5 million homes per year nationally. 2026 forecasts are more like 4.2 million to 4.5 million existing home sales, depending on who you listen to. So yes, that's an improvement, but it's still not a back to normal boom. It's the market healing. And here's what the experts are saying in plain English. The National Association of Realtors is one of the most optimistic groups. They're predicting about a 14% increase in home sales in 2026. They're calling it a comeback year. They're also predicting prices nationally rise about 4%. And they think mortgage rates average around 6% throughout the year. Now on the other side, you've got groups like Zillow and Redfin that are more conservative. Zillow is forecasting around a 2% price increase from late 25 to late 2026, and Redfin is forecasting closer to 1%. And then you've got groups like Moody's saying affordability improves, but very slowly, not because home prices fall, but because price growth cools off and incomes gradually catch up over time. And you see, that's the key theme across all of it. Nobody credible is calling for some massive housing crash. Some groups like the MBA do warn that there could be flat growth, maybe even a few quarters of softness, but even then, the big story is still stabilization, not collapse. So what does this mean for you if you are buying in New Bern in 2026? Okay, Ray from the future here, real quick. So I actually recorded this video before some new stuff happened this week in the housing market. And I just want to throw this in really quick because I believe it matters, especially before I get into my New Bern housing market prediction for 2026. We had a lot of announcements, a lot of moving parts, and mortgage rates made a pretty big move. And what's interesting is it wasn't even because the 10-year treasury suddenly dropped off a cliff. A big part of it came from mortgage spreads tightening up, which can make mortgage rates move faster than people expect. So I'm not saying anything's about to go crazy overnight, but I am saying this is your reminder that the housing market can change quickly when there's outside influence, big announcements, or basically anything that shifts buyer confidence and demand. So just keep that context in mind as I go into what I think 2026 is going to look like here in New Bern. So let's go ahead and get back to the video. Here's my prediction based on what happened here locally in 2025 and based on what the national trends are pointing toward. I think inventory in New Bern will remain higher than what we saw in 2023 and early 2024. It won't explode, but it will stay in that healthier, more balanced range than what we saw through most of 2025. I think days on market will likely stay higher than the frenzy years, and that's a good thing because that means you'll actually have time to make decisions without feeling like you're going to lose the house in 3 hours. Prices in New Bern will probably remain stable, and depending on the neighborhood, I could see slight appreciation, maybe in the 2 to 4% range, not 10%, not 15%, but steady, because New Bern still has demand and we're still not overbuilt. And builders are going to keep doing what they did in 2025. They'll offer incentives instead of aggressively raising prices. So instead of seeing huge price cuts, you'll see things like closing cost help, rate buy downs, upgrades, and more flexibility. So if you're thinking about buying in 2026, I want you to understand this. Your advantage in 2026 is not that prices are going to crash. Your advantage is that you are finally shopping in a market where you can think clearly. You can compare homes, you can negotiate again, you can be strategic, and you can avoid the biggest mistakes people make, which is buying emotionally and justifying logically. In 2026, preparation is going to be everything because you're not competing against every buyer in America like 2021. You're competing against prepared buyers, the buyers who already have their lender lined up, the buyers who already know their numbers, the buyers who already understand the neighborhoods, the buyers who can move confidently when the right home pops up. And that's why if you are planning to buy in 2026, here's what I would do. First, shop the payment, not the approval amount. You don't need to know the biggest number a bank will give you. You need to know what monthly payment makes sense for your life. Second, get fully pre-approved, not just pre-qualified. That means you actually submit your documents, W-2s, pay stubs, and bank statements. You get real numbers because in a balanced market, you're going to have more options. But the good homes will still move, and when the right one shows up, you want to be ready. Third, you got to understand that negotiation is back. If a home has been sitting 60 days, 90 days, that's leverage. Not necessarily leverage for some ridiculous lowball offer, but leverage for repairs, credits, closing costs, rate buy downs, better terms. And if you're buying new construction in 2026, you absolutely need to compare total cost, not sticker price, because builders will keep offering incentives. And if you don't know how to evaluate those incentives, you can miss a good deal without even realizing it. Now let's bring this home. If you're thinking about moving to New Bern in 2026, I'm not here to sell you on the idea that this is some magical perfect time. But I am here to tell you the truth. 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most buyer-friendly environments we have seen in a while. Not because homes are cheap, but because the market is finally normal again. And when the market is normal, buyers win through preparation, not panic. So if you want help building a plan, if you want to understand what neighborhoods make the most sense for you, if you want to see what your payment looks like in today's rates, my team and I would love to help you. You can schedule a Zoom call with me using the link in the description of this video. And you can also give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. And if you got value from this video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.